Dead
And
on.
here we are.
I'm you know what?
And here we are.
I might step away from the camera and just become a director. I like it.
I mean, hey, that's what you want to do, you know.
I couldn't leave Barry an Amrock like that though.
Yeah, you know what? I don't know who else could do either of those characters.
I tell you what, let's start there. Welcome everybody to Echo Chamber, the session in between sessions. Today, we had a session, and we'll save this for stats chat a little bit, but I was looking at the damage done last session. There was over 700 points of damage done in
Wow.
those last couple battles, and that to me is
Right.
crazy because you think of the other campaign, we're what, level 8 9, and
Hmm.
that one fight with Nisana we did like 600 and or 700, and she did 700, and in this one we're level 5, so it's just crazy the amount of damage output sometimes. I
Yeah.
blame Cleek and Mordai, but
Uh, this I would say this group is more damage oriented. You know, the other group we're pretty balanced. You know, we have you know Adrian is healer, but he's also can do a little bit of damage, and then you have Amrook and Siddle and Jack. They're the big damage dealers. Um, Warwick doesn't do too much damage. He's more of situational um, support. uh, Griswold is Griswold. He's
he
tank.
absorbs damage.
He absorbs damage. Um, and Ashley's, she's getting caught up in how the rogue works, but she I'm gonna say she's a specialist. She's kind of a sniper in a way, you know. She picks and chooses her shots.
That's a good way to put it. Picks and
Yeah,
chooses shots and stays stealthy and stuff. I could see her uh, doing quite a bit of damage eventually. I could see
yeah,
Althea like
yeah,
really putting out some damage output at
yeah,
some
yeah.
point. We'll see.
This group is, I mean, uh, pretty driven. I mean, you got a warlock, a sorcerer, and a monk. Uh, that that and now you have a barbarian. Um, there's a lot of damage going around. Here, the other thing too is there was a lot of damage done because you guys went up against a couple of things that had resistance. So you
Oh,
actually kind of do a little bit. You kind of have to do some double damage almost.
that's true. That's true. So it takes twice as much damage output to
Hmm.
actually take it down. That makes sense as well. But no, I definitely agree with that evaluation that we are higher damage. Now you have done several campaigns. Would you say that's kind of based on the mood in which the campaign is put out? Because I feel like the other one we were a little timid because for most of us it was kind of our first, and so that mood was like, all right, I'm gonna do this because I kind of understand it. It means this to me, and then this one was like, all right, I got the feeling for it. Let's do this shit. You know what I mean? Or would you say?
Yeah, no, I guess it's kind of the case. It depends on the campaign setting, I guess. Um, yeah, that might be the case. I'm trying to think like a lot of mine too is there's a lot of combat going on in mine. Um, where Garrett's is more bigger bigger enemies, less enemies. Where I kind of tend to, I'm gonna throw a couple little things at you, then throw kind of a medium side. I'm kind of try to wear you down a little bit.
I think you should highlight couple there because there was a crap ton of skeletons.
Yeah, that was fun.
I gotta give
That
you
was fun.
props on that. That little like skeleton Metroid that like rolled up, and then when we killed it, exploded into others. I was like,
I I,
that
I can't take I
that
can't
is
I can't take credit for that. I gotta give credit to the writers of uh who is that? The writers for Ghost of the Salt Marsh, or that particular module. So can't take full
Nonetheless,
credit
it
for it.
was still epic for me, and then being a cleric as well, being able to use that turn finally. I know we talked about it a little bit last week, but I mean, I don't think I gave you enough props on the monster itself. We talked about the damage
Yeah,
aspect.
I was like that was one of the reasons why I like okay I'm gonna throw this in because this is really cool. I like this.
Hmm. Yeah,
And
for
then
sure.
I was looking out for Barry because I know he's I thought, you know what, I'm gonna throw some skeletons at him, see if he pulls out the turn.
For
For the
sure.
love of God, turn!
One more level and I can use turn twice in a
Yeah,
shorter
yeah,
long rest. So
yeah,
looking forward to that as we go. But not that I'm not looking forward to getting back to campaign one eventually. I do love Amrook and
yeah.
that campaign, and we will get back there eventually. But um, another thing, so let's go to lightning first. I was going to do the other, but let's go to lightning first because we're already talking about combat and stuff. It just makes more sense. So we talked about, I think it's second edition, correct me if I'm wrong, the lightning bouncing and how you and Garrett and some others, I've seen CR do it as well.
Yeah, yeah.
And in the heat of battle, like, so when we were talking about it, we were trying to figure out, like, okay, so how does this work? Would it just hit and keep bouncing if it was like in like a 20-foot hallway until either A, like you said, it breaks down a door, or B, it just keeps bouncing till it runs out of energy? And go ahead.
It's always gone until it ran out of energy, until it ran out of its not radius distance. So yeah.
Uh, yeah, I thought at first, okay, it's kind of like a game of pool. You're like
Mhm.
measuring up the angles, hoping you're right. A little easier on roll 20 than it would be in
Yeah, yeah.
Theater of the Mind. But then, like, of course, I started thinking as well. It's kind of like Percy's like shot in
Mhm.
the animated series, right? Just bounce it off
Yeah,
the
yeah.
three things,
Bounce.
take out his
Yeah.
jaw. Like that's
Uh,
that it could build for some epic situations, and I really like that feature. Are there
yeah.
any other features like that from um, second edition, third edition, anything?
You know, um, I gotta think about that. There's always been kind of some neat rules that they've did away with um in the older editions, and yeah, you know what, I gotta kind of think about that. What? Yeah, I gotta think about that one.
Yeah, I like the ability to home rule some of those rules. Uh,
Yeah.
I am a rules lawyer, as we all know. I can't help myself.
Mhm.
People say stuff, and I got better this last time. You noticed Evan was chiming in on the rules, and
Uh-huh.
I was just
Yeah.
sitting there like,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
keeping my mouth shut. So I am actively working on it. But even though I'm a bit of a rules lawyer, it's up here. Um, I still enjoy the ability to tweak those rules as
Mhm.
needed, and I think that
Yeah.
that can really make the difference in like a really rigid campaign that you're not as into, and a
Mhm.
campaign in which it's a little bit more fluid.
Yeah.
Have you ever been in like a campaign where it's like, nope, that's the rules, deal with it, or anything like that?
There's been one or two that I'll say a friend of mine. You think you're bad with a rules lawyer? I'll just say he's Edgar Schneider of D&D, and it got to the point where it'd be like, okay, dude, you need to put the book down because he would be like, well, but uh, on page 375 in the player's handbook, this says this, and it'd just be like, okay, well, you gotta stop, dude. Yeah.
You know who else I thought would be like that? I thought Murph would be like that too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I thought for sure he was going to come in
Yeah.
knowing the rules and just being like, no, it says this, so
Yeah.
I can do it. Um,
Yeah.
but no, it's just something about it that I enjoy the knowledge aspect behind knowing
Mhm.
how the mechanics. That's
Yeah.
probably the
Yeah.
best, knowing the mechanics.
Uh-huh.
But nonetheless, I do like the flexibility, and
Yeah. Yeah.
I think we are as a group flexible, like with the way we handle the nat 20s on death saves and different stuff like
Mhm.
that. Uh,
Yeah, yeah.
for sure. Which brings me to death saves with Cleek. Cleek gets 2 death saves. You caught that. I didn't say a word.
I was so mad at myself because there's a couple things. Uh, and no, sorry, Rusty out there, if you're watching, listening later on, but there's a couple things that I really could have screwed Cleek over with, and I forgot completely. And I was like, oh no. And I was like, I'm already like three three rounds, not 3 rounds, but like 3 turns after his go, and I was like, oh man, I can't retcon it right now. There's like too much stuff that happened. I'm like, I'll just all right, I'll wing it.
That
Because
and oh
he
god.
was he was in the circle for the spirit guardians. That would have taken him down on the top of his turn, and that's what I forgot. I was like, damn it, that was the whole reason I brought that up too.
Yeah. I honestly I think people talk about like DM versus the party and how it's like you're against each other. But I think you could have
Uh-huh.
killed him 3 times over, and you chose not to based on the characters. When the I think it might have been a veteran decided
Hmm.
not to finish him off because he's down, he's not a threat. I think that
Yeah,
was like a matter of intelligence. You know what I mean?
yeah. Whereas opposed if it was a monster or undead or something that just has a killing sort of mentality, I think Cleek might have we might have seen the end of Cleek. I don't know.
I Yeah, I don't, I what character would you have guessed Rusty would have made next?
Artificer.
Artificer. See, I don't know. I
Yeah.
feel like he's saving that for another campaign, so I
You
don't
think you
know
have
what
a
he would.
full campaign? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
I don't.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to do it for the one shot.
Oh, that's. Oh, we didn't talk to everybody about the
No.
one shot, but we can go ahead and announce it. This is Echo Chamber. We do what we want on here. March 6th. March 6th, we're planning a one shot. Guest DM Evan Sawyer. I'm excited. I know he's excited. He's probably thinking this is going to be awesome because that's what he says. And we will have possibly, hopefully, at least one other guest, maybe two, and I'm
Oh,
pretty excited to bring them in, as well as excited for Evan to DM.
yeah, I'm excited about that Evan Dean. That's um I've been ever since Sunday night. I'm thinking, what character to play. I was thinking about it earlier. I'm thinking, I'm like a rogue. I like playing a rogue. Oh, but I haven't played a warlock.
All right,
So
we
I'm
all go
thinking those two.
rogues.
We'll go rogues. Party of rogues.
We all go rangers.
Mm,
Yeah, no, I think what are we starting? Level 3, right? Level 3
yeah.
characters for this.
Yeah.
I'm excited about it. Haven't decided myself on the character, but I am leaning towards a barbarian.
Oh
I
yeah.
played a barbarian in a one shot that Garrett DM'd before we started recording, and I really enjoyed the mechanics of it. It was very simple, like Fighter. Don't get me wrong,
Mm,
but there's just something about it, with the rage and with reckless attacks and different stuff like that I enjoyed. Um, After playing Barry, I do struggle a little bit, not knowing what the spells are, but it's like the preparation of the spells. You know what
mhm,
I mean? Especially with
mhm,
cleric, because you have all of the spells,
mhm,
but it's based on and because with Adrin, you have so many, and you have to like say,
mhm.
okay, I'm gonna prepare these 8 for today, and then you get in a situation, and you're like, crap, Cleek's down, I didn't prepare Revivify. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's one thing about spellcasters. There's always the one or two spells that you always have in reserve, even if you never use them. Mine's Lesser Restoration, Revivify. Dispel Magic's a good one. Those are the ones that like I might use them once or twice, but they're game changers. They can change.
Hmm.
If I could have gotten to Reed in the Nasana battle, had lesser restoration. That would have freed him from the paralysis, and that could have changed things in the fight because you had 3 rounds without Reed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
um, just things like that.
Yeah. For sure. For
And
sure.
and and we saw how the counter spell worked. So spell magic counter spell, those are those are
We've
always
also
great.
seen dispel magic with the suggestion before. So
Yeah,
I I there's just so many like that you
yeah,
could constantly, I even think like, okay, if I had detect magic, would we have been able to
mm,
see Bayleaf? You know what I mean? Different stuff like that. If he had a magic item on him, would you be able to see him? Like,
no,
I
you
don't know
can't.
if that's how that works. I didn't
Yeah,
know, but
no,
that was my thought process. I was like, I don't have it prepared anyway, so I didn't go
yeah,
down that road. But it's just different interactions like that.
yeah.
And spellcasters, man, that's just it's tough. Like I
Hmm.
do not envy our bard or yourself because like you gotta always have healing spirit, and then that freaking dwarf's always asking you for good berries,
For
right?
good berry. Yeah.
He can't help it. He's addicted. Okay, addiction is a disease. All right, I do want to get into stats chat. One more question or one more point before we get into stats chat. G Money and myself were talking after last week's session, and we were talking about. I brought up that it's crazy to me that you, Rusty, even Evan, Keegan, Garrett, Ryan, like that's crazy.
Yeah.
All worked together for like 5 years minimum, and had 2 interactions, like just crazy to me. And then
I
that like, you know, the campaign one brought us all together, and then we did some one shots, and just kept growing, and it's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, I've talked to Garrett a couple times before you started playing, but like I said, just a couple things for work. Um, uh, Keegan and Evan, um, I would see in the hall, and for the longest time, we couldn't, us in IT could not discern which one was which, so we just called them the Keegan brothers. Um, Ryan, I think I might have said 3 words to before all this, and same with Rusty. I think seeing Rusty a couple times, just it's kind of funny how D&D works like that. Um, my When I was in college, um, we had a whole wing at good old Clarion University, Ralston Hall, second floor, um, where we pretty much the whole wing was practically playing, and we had a couple guys from um, third floor that came down too, and it, we would just take over the one of the rec rooms, and it was just there was a couple times where the RA would come in, be 1 o'clock in the morning. You guys are too loud, and he just closed the door on us. But it's funny how it can bring different people together.
Yeah, like and it's not that we're a super diverse group either. Not like
Mhm.
different beliefs or anything like that. It was just you guys never, nothing brought you
Yeah.
together, and this did. So I gotta ask. I did talk to Garrett. I might share his feelings on it, but I gotta ask you, what are your thoughts when you walk into Evan's house for the first time? Because for those of you who don't know, I had just joined the company we work for, and Garrett and Evan approached me about doing this D&D thing that they've been talking about it for months, and they hadn't pulled the trigger, and so I was like, let's do it. Let's just plan a session, get there, let's do it. And so we planned the session, and then secretly, I went and talked to Eric, and I remember I walked into his office, and I was like, Yo, E, you play D&D, and he starts looking around the room, and he's like, how do you know?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Like I mean that's pretty much like what I do. I mean yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
it
Continue your story.
no, for sure, and that's like dead on. Like it was a bit of an assumption on my part.
Uh-huh.
I'm a nerd, so I'm like, you know what, this guy's probably a nerd too. He's probably into it. Even if he hadn't played before, let's get him in on this. And so then I secretly invited you. I think I even told you, like, I'm not telling him who's coming. I'm just telling him
Uh,
someone's coming. And
uh,
so you walk in the door of Evan's house. What's like going through your mind at this point? Because I never like asked you like your point of view
I don't
from it.
I don't know. It was kind of exciting for me. I was excited. It was kind of like I guess not to sound inflated or anything like that, but it was kind of like a rock star kind of feeling. Like I know these guys are rookies at this, and they're gonna be like, oh no, uh, what's E gonna do about it? How's this is gonna. And so I mean, there was a little trepidation on my part because I wasn't sure how you guys are going to get into the character. Is this going to be uh you know I've played with different people. They really get into character, and then some are like, okay, my character's just going to do this, and I'm cool with either way.
Right,
Like
right.
having the voice or just you know it's fun for me either way. But so there was a little bit of trepidation on my part on that, but yeah, I don't know, it was a lot of fun. It was just seeing like Evan, like his eyes kind of like, what?
For sure. That I mean, that goblin fight for you was like nothing, but for us as newbies, it
Uh,
was like
oh,
Evan
that
falls out of
cracked
the
me up.
cart.
That cracked me up.
For sure. And I'm looking forward to that experience with our guest. I think they're gonna have the same reaction. I think that's awesome. Um, but so I will. I was hoping Garrett was on so he could give his POV, but I'll just give a little tidbit. I kind of asked him, what what went through your mind, same as I asked you, and like how nervous were you? Because at this point, the reason they were pushing it off is, everybody didn't quite know what they were doing, but they were
Uh-huh.
ready to muddle through it. So
Uh-huh.
Garrett said he was at, on the nervous scale, 0 to 10. He was
Uh-huh.
at about an 8 whenever I was like, let's just do this. And
Uh-huh.
then he had talked himself down. You know what? Nobody else knows how to play either, so we're just gonna go through this together.
Uh-huh.
So he had like talked himself down a little bit, and he was okay
Uh-huh.
with it. He said you walked through the door. He went to a 12 because I mean he had no clue who was coming.
That's
I felt a
awesome.
little bad when he told me that, but then I was like, that's
Uh-huh.
awesome because you know what? It worked
That's
out.
awesome.
If it
Yeah, no,
hadn't
it
worked
did.
out, he might hate me today, but it worked out.
Yeah. No, that's awesome.
Yeah. So
This is
all of you
it's
watching,
it's
if
actually
you
kind of
get a chance, invite someone that you don't typically talk to and just have that experience with them.
it is actually kind of funny because of Kurt J. Lesker Company. This is my second group that I've played D&D with through Kurt J. Lesker Company. First group was through a guy at work that worked in IT, and he said, "Hey, we play D&D," um, and 20 years later, um, one of the guys that used to work at KJLC years and years and years ago, um, uh, is a really good friend of mine, and one of the other players that he introduced me to is a really good friend of mine who I play with still today. And uh, it's funny how that works. My guys from college that I play Thursday nights with, I kind of fell out of contact with them for years and years, and you know um, pandemic rolls around and we learn how to do D&D stuff on the internet. And uh, my friend A is like, "Hey, you guys interested in playing online game through Zoom?" And we are just going to do Theater of the Mind. And he ran for a while, and he does Theater of the Mind, and so they asked me to run, and so I was like, okay, well, we're going to use Roll20. So and here I am, you know, um, you know, reconnecting those friends now. So D&D is awesome like that.
For sure, for sure. It's, yeah, I forget what late night show it was, but somebody was talking about their experience and playing with the campaign for like 3 or 4 years, and like it's the best I've ever heard it put, that it is an experience that you're all sharing together, that without an actual concreteness to
Hmm.
it. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And it's very abstract to think about. So to explain to somebody, oh, it's like a dream, but you're all in that dream, it's hard to explain. But once you
Yeah.
do it and you like, even if you only invest in it a little bit,
Hmm.
you get so much more out of it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
But, uh, with that, I think it's time, because I don't want to jump anybody out. We got plenty of stats to go over, so it's time for stats chat.
Stats check.
Bring mine up so I can follow along.
All right, so we're gonna go ahead and kick the map on here. We have the latest encounter up. I will point out, last week I was a little bit boosted, we'll say, with turn giving me 10 kills,
Hmm.
and this week I didn't have a single one.
You didn't? I thought you had one.
Nah, Barry
No.
didn't get any. I got as Mordai before
Hmm.
G jumped on.
Mordai clean. Was him and I want to say.
Cleek. Him, Cleek, and Jack were all tied at 3 kills.
Okay.
And this was for both encounters. So the
Hmm.
Culture Club, and I caught that cult thing. And
Uh-huh.
then Jack, I got to hover over this one because it's not quite wide enough, but Jack attacks the Bodic Ballsack. I like that one. Um, I sent Eric a message in the middle of the day, just cracking up about it. I won't say in the middle; it was later, but yeah. So Barry underperformed this time as far as kills, but you know what? We spread them out quite a bit. Um, and then I did want to show this damage down here at the bottom. So out of both interactions, both encounters, let me actually close this one. Total of 702 damage, as I said, and then so that was the first interaction was 425, the second one was 277. 702 damage, I feel, is nothing to scoff at.
No, no. That's quite a bit, right?
And then if we look at the
Yeah.
being attacked by 284, so you know what? For
Mhm.
level 5 characters, we took some damage, and I
Yeah.
didn't feel in the middle of it. Like, I was like, I'm the healer, but everybody's looking pretty good
Yeah.
until you actually need it. So I can only imagine you as Adrian with Healing Spirit. Like, everything's going good until you absolutely need it, and then it's like, guys, come here, come here, come here. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
that rush.
Cleek took a good blunt of that. And then Nine also, he has damage resistance, so when he's raging, so he's taken quite a bit of damage too, but he absorbed some of it. But yeah, sorry, Rusty. Cleek got beat up on, I think, these last couple of
You know what? I put
episodes.
it under the well-deserved category, because if you remember early on in the campaign, I don't think we
Hmm.
had the streams at that point. Cleek was just coming in, popping everything,
Hmm.
anything that looked at him the wrong way. He was
Yeah.
throwing claws at. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I
I
mean,
think this is payback
yeah. I mean, and he still is too. He's still dishing out the damage.
for sure. He went in through a little dip. I looked at the fighting
Hmm.
trends. He went in a little dip, but then this week he came back out, claws showing. So. I did want to point this out because he did this for Barry, separating Mordai's healing into temporary HP. Still working out the tweaks there, but I like it. I don't. I guess it's an extra step for you from the stats point of view, but I
Uh,
do feel like it's kind of not healing in the same way that it's
yeah.
healing. It's yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's a
I mean, big
mitigated
picture.
damage, right?
Right. I mean, big picture. Yeah. I mean, you can say you're getting 11 hit points back, with that temporary HP in a sense. But yeah.
That, and it makes Barry feel so much better about being the healer. Barry doesn't have a problem with it. Barry is pretty chill. Carl may not be as chill, but Barry's pretty chill.
And it's
Uh,
funny too is I always forget Ashley. She's a druid. She has cure wounds too. So.
she does. She mentioned it. So I had just healed Cleek with Cure Wounds. I was like, all right, I
Uh-huh.
rush over, and then trying to boost him up a little bit, and then afterwards she was like, oh, I have Cure Wounds too. I could do it.
Uh-huh.
It's like, hold on to that because we may need it here in a minute.
It's kind of funny because anybody that watches Critical Role, especially with season 3 here, um, Fern kind of reminds me of that way too. Like, they're looking for like who can cure, and there's uh Robbie's character and FCG,
FCG, yeah.
and I'm like, well, Ashley can do cure wounds too, and
If she
you
has it
know,
prepared, as we mentioned.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
It's kind of even like campaign 2 for them, where they had a cleric who
yeah,
was more invested in doing the damage. So I think it's just. So I don't know if it's like when you create the character, you are kind of subconsciously deciding this is how this character is going to be played, and you don't. And when you prepare the spells, you don't prepare those healing spells, or if it's
yeah.
like personal and you're kind of like working through those things. I'm not sure, but you know.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think I think you're right on. Hmm. Yeah, I think it goes either way. There's been times I've created a character, and during character creation, okay, this character is going to be like this. He's going to be like that. 2 sessions in, this character took a sharp left somewhere and is completely different.
180, not even just a 90
Yeah,
degree. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. No. When I created Barry, like I was like, no, he's good Barry. He's going to be the healer, and I wanted that little bit of raise the dead and have a little fun with it too. But as far as he's a follower, so he's
Hmm.
going to be a healer as much as possible and just follow along. Another thing I didn't know until I played Mordai. Mordai has an intelligence of -1. Did not realize that.
Yep.
I was gonna
I
ask
think.
Garrett about that. Like, how hard is that to play an intelligence of -1?
Oh, I mean, you have you're slightly less than average.
So we're saying 0 is the average here,
Well, what his intelligence is, what, 8 probably, or
somewhere around
9.
there.
Yeah, so 9 is average. 9 10 is average.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah, I guess when you think about it that way.
yeah. So I mean, he's a C student.
He's a C student.
He's a BC
I like
student.
it. I like it nonetheless. It's comical, like the little quirks
Uh-huh.
that you get out of just building the character. Like you're like, oh, he's got crappy intelligence. This guy's gonna be a moron. You know what I mean? Like
Uh-huh.
that type of stuff. Like, and then
Yeah.
it's based on those decisions and how it plays out. To break down the healing a little bit more, just want to pull this up. So this is for last session. The Cure Wounds doing 37. Mass Healing Word, first time I've used that. And then Healing Word. I'm not sure if I did the Healing Word. Who did the Healing Word? It was not. It was on the
Um.
enemy side. That's where it
Yeah,
came
it
from.
was. That's
That's
where.
right.
Yeah, that's where it's right.
And
Yeah.
there's a little Cure Wounds, I think, that came from the enemy side too. Yeah.
Yeah, that was. Yeah.
Yeah. And
I got.
then
I gotta put that on the I gotta put that on the board there to filter those out. Gotta remember to do that.
I think I like them in there.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, because then we can see some of that healing that the other side's doing to
Mm,
mitigate our damage. Personally,
okay.
I like it in there.
All right. I'll leave it in.
Because we can kind of see down here in the bar chart, who is receiving that healing, and
Hmm.
obviously, Cleek taking the most damage did receive a lot of that. And then if we break down, like inspiring leader, we can see that's all friendly, and I personally like it. And
Okay. Cool.
let me clear it out and just look at it from a bigger picture standpoint. I don't think it hinders anything. You know what I mean? Like you're gonna
Yeah.
have a
Right.
couple of those,
Right.
but I think ultimately
Hmm.
the
Hmm.
party will have the biggest end. So I don't think you have anything to worry about there.
Yeah.
I like it. Of course, doing the healing, we got to jump into the damage. This is set for last one, so we're going to clear that off. This is overall damage, and then break it down the final two encounters. If we look at the overall damage first, Kleek's still up there, as we talked about. Mordai, because of his freaking fireball, which I wanted to do a fireball so bad just because I've never done a fireball. The rooms were also cramped. I was like, I can't do it. So I had to throw Shatter out there a couple times. And then Jack doing some damage this time as well. If we look at just these... Oop, got a control click. Just these two... Nine was actually coming up in ranks there. I noticed that as you said, I almost feel like on the other one we have a funnel chart that you can switch between damage and damage taken. I think I mentioned the amount of absorption you do kind of is your presence, and I think Nine would be top there. I think.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, he might fight Kleek for it a little bit because Kleek is more like the Amrook, and Nine is more like the Griswold. But even Kleek's AC, you saw it. Like, it's hard to hit those two.
I was rewatching the stream and everything else too, and I'm looking at my rolls on the previous rolls through the chat and everything else. I'm like, oh, why can't I hit these guys? I'm like so close on a couple of them too, and I'm like, man, there's a couple on that Bodak. I was like, damn.
So tell me what you forgot to do with the Bodak that would have done an additional damage to us.
So the Bodak does, if you're within 30 feet of him, you take 5 damage. You take 5 damage on the start of your turn.
Oh, just for being close to him, you'd take like psychic damage because you're terrified of him.
Yeah, there's no save, there's no nothing. And then there's the gaze that he has, which is at the beginning of your turn, you make a con save. If you fail it, you take something D10. I want to say it was 4D10. But if you fail that DC, which was like DC 13, if you fail it by 5 or more, you automatically drop to 0 hit points. You're automatically unconscious.
Note to healers: hold on to healing word for situations with the Bodak.
Yeah.
Yeah. That
Bodak is no joke.
Pretty crazy. I mean, all right. We'll just have to keep that in mind as we go on with the fights. That you could be throwing some heavier punches here now.
Yeah, a little bit.
And then we'll just jump into the all encounters view just to see overall damage so far. I didn't look at it myself until right now. 3,500 points of damage that we have done as a party total throughout the campaign, which we only started this at episode 13, so we have 12 episodes of damage before that not calculated. I bet you could say that our damage output, it was smaller creatures, but I bet you could say that that was over double. So we probably have $7,000 of damage in this party.
Yeah, no. The dragon's not in here. The fight with the initial fight with the Bellic was his name, the druid, and the tree, and that whole
that
adventure.
one as we started the dungeon crawl, right past that room. Yeah, that one was a pretty big battle.
Yeah. Yep.
I would say we get $7,000 easy. I mean, can't say that for certain, but I think it's safe to make that assumption.
Yeah, no, I
built for damage, Mordai's Misfits. I think, synonyms.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right, with that, I know we did want to look at buffs. Last thing, Bless coming out from the other side to hurt us. When you did that, I was like, that son of a gun. Like,
I did want to make comment that Bless really came into effect these last 2 battles. There was a couple in the first battle. The first battle that went well went against you. But especially in the Bodak encounter, that there was, I want to say, like 3 or 4 things that Bless helped with. I know one was one of the saving throws for Cleek for the Death Gaze.
Oh,
Uh,
nice.
yeah. So, and then there was I want to say the killing shot. I think the killing shot for Jack on the Bodak was because of Bless.
All right, nice. I mean, it's no secret that Bless is, in my opinion, the most underrated spell in the game.
Uh-huh.
When you count out, probably Healing Spirit would be the only one that may tie it. I also like Bane, but I think Bless, it's so versatile, and then once your character gets up there in levels, you can cast it at higher levels to spread it out even more, and it just
Yeah.
like, if you are in any way, shape, or form able to cast Bless, do it. Start
Yeah.
it off with Bless. If you have
Yep.
a high AC, you're not going to get hit most of the time anyway, so you keep it up.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
And
but
and like I said, it helps both in offense and defense.
as we've
There's 2
seen,
examples.
yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
You know, and it's funny because you think, oh, it's just another D4, but you never know. You never know when you need
Just the one.
that one,
I
just that
at
one.
least twice. I remember thinking, okay, that hits as long as he rolls a one, and he
Hmm.
can't not roll a one, right?
Yeah.
So like, in fact, I think Cleek's final round, he rolled all three of his and then
Hmm.
rolled the d4s, and the d4 made it hit by one. He rolled a one on
Hmm.
it, and it bumped it up from 12 to 13, and it hit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
my favorite. I don't know.
Uh-huh.
I can't help it. Amrook doesn't know anything about magic, but if he did, he would cast Bless. He probably wouldn't because he's in there and would get hit immediately. And it would just be a waste of a turn for him.
Yeah. Right.
Which is probably how Evan feels with Griswold.
Yeah, I think that's where that's tough for Grizz. He
I
tries to cast it, but when you're the tank, you're gonna.
it's
There's
that
a good
is a
chance you're gonna.
tricky because you have to figure out your placement in your positioning, and whether you're going to get hit or not, whether you should cast it, whether somebody else can cast it. Those are the different dynamics of the team fight that you know people who like even people who fought together for a long time in the sessions still don't quite do as efficiently as it could be done.
Hmm.
Which is where my rules lawyer brain comes in. I'm like, oh, you could do this and you do this, and then we
Yeah.
synergize, and yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah. I
all right,
got you. I know what you mean.
for sure. So with that, we'll go ahead and end the session. Thank you everybody for watching, and we'll see you on Sunday.
Yeah.
What was your sign off this past Sunday? I forget.
Just remember, those of you with paranoia out there, you're not alone.
I like it. That's where we're ending it. See you guys.